My name is Kelly Ford, a 60-year-old retired teacher living in a quiet town with my husband. I've raised 2 children and now enjoy a peaceful life after many years of dedicated work. However, today is a special day. My son Nathan and his wife Stella have asked me to look after their 3-year-old daughter Charlotte, who has a developmental disorder, for 3 days. Charlotte is an adorable child, but due to her condition, she requires special care and attention. My son and daughter-in-law have demanding careers, leaving them little time for Charlotte. Nathan, the CEO of a major pharmaceutical company, prioritizes work over family, reflecting his ruthless, profit-driven nature. Stella, once a nurse, now seems to bend to her husband's will and also struggles to care for Charlotte. When they arrived with Charlotte, I greeted them at the door. The little girl seemed tense. "Hello, Charlotte. Welcome to Grandma's house," I said softly, smiling at her. She whispered a timid hello as she offered me her small hand. Nathan glanced at his watch, looking preoccupied. "Mom, I know taking care of Charlotte is challenging, but we're counting on you," he said curtly. "Of course, don't worry. Charlotte is family, and I'll take good care of her," I reassured him. Stella handed me Charlotte's backpack, instructing, "Please make sure she takes her medicine and eats on schedule. She might cry at night, so just hold her close if that happens." "I understand." "Thank you, Stella," I replied, squeezing her hand and smiling reassuringly. After they left, I led Charlotte to the living room. She seemed to relax a little. "Let's have a wonderful time together, Charlotte. How about we start with a snack?" I asked, preparing some cookies she liked. She nodded, beginning to smile. I was determined to shower her with love and ensure she felt safe and comfortable. And so began our special 3 days together. The first day with Charlotte went more smoothly than anticipated. Warm sunlight filled the living room, and though she was still a bit nervous, Charlotte gradually opened up while munching on cookies. "What would you like to do, Charlotte?" I asked. After thinking for a moment, she replied, "I want to draw." "That's a wonderful idea. Grandma loves drawing too." I took out the drawing supplies from the corner of the living room. Charlotte picked up crayons and focused intently on the paper, her colorful lines reflecting her world. I sat beside her, sketching a small house and flowers. "Charlotte, I drew this flower for you," I said, showing her my drawing. She smiled and said, "Thank you, Grandma." In the afternoon, we went out to the garden, picking flowers and playing on the swing. Seeing Charlotte's growing smile filled my heart with joy. As she swung, she shouted gleefully, "Higher, Grandma. Hold on tight, Charlotte." I gently pushed her, cherishing her innocent laughter. For dinner, I made her favorite spaghetti. She delighted in every bite, exclaiming, "Yummy." Afterward, we read a storybook together. Charlotte chose her beloved Goodnight Moon and was captivated as I turned each page. "Read it again, Grandma," she pleaded, sitting on the bed. "Of course, Charlotte. I'll read it as many times as you like." I reopened the book and sat beside her. That night, I held her hand until she fell asleep, her warmth filling my heart. Once she was sound asleep, I gently kissed her forehead and left the room. So ended a joyful day with Charlotte, her smile and innocent voice etched in my memory. As I went to bed, I looked forward to another wonderful day with her. The next morning, although Charlotte seemed unchanged, I noticed subtle differences. At breakfast, she was quieter and hardly touched her food. "Charlotte, do you not like pancakes?" I asked gently. She shook her head. "I like them, but I don't feel like eating much today," she replied softly. "That's all right, sweetheart. Let me know if you'd like something else." I stroked her hair, a flicker of concern crossing my mind. That morning, Charlotte drew in the living room, but her drawings lacked the brightness of the previous day. She used a black crayon to create chaotic lines and dark colors. "Charlotte, what are you drawing?" I asked, sitting beside her. Staring at her picture, she mumbled, "Just what's on my mind." I placed my hand on her shoulder. "If you ever want to talk, Grandma's here for you," I said gently. Charlotte just nodded quietly. In the afternoon, Charlotte refused to play in the garden and secluded herself in her room. While it wasn't unusual for her to spend time alone, today felt different. I was deeply worried but sensed that pressing her would be counterproductive. "Charlotte, would you like to go outside with Grandma for a bit?" I called her, but there was no response. As dinner time approached, my anxiety grew. Charlotte didn't appear at the table, remaining in her room. I knocked on her door and spoke softly. "Charlotte, what's wrong? Did something happen?" But there was no reply. I opened the door slightly to check on her. She sat on the bed, staring intently at something, her eyes filled with sadness and worry. "Charlotte, can you tell Grandma what happened?" I sat beside her, holding her hand. After a long silence, she whispered, "I think Mommy and Daddy don't love me." Her words felt like a punch to my chest. "That's not true, Charlotte. Grandma's here because you're so precious. Your Mommy and Daddy love you very much." Tears welled up in her eyes as she murmured, "But Daddy's always angry, and Mommy never says anything." I hugged her close. "Charlotte, you are so loved. Grandma being here is proof of that," I assured her. That night, I stayed with Charlotte, trying to help her feel safe enough to sleep. But a shadow of worry was etched deeply in my heart. I began to consider what I should do to find the cause of Charlotte's sadness and protect her. The next morning, traces of anxiety still lingered on Charlotte's face. I wanted to do something special to bring back her smile, even a little. However, I didn't yet know that more surprises and fears awaited us that day. Charlotte's demeanor remained unchanged. After picking at her breakfast, she retreated to her room again. I tried to give her some space while doing chores, but couldn't help checking on her a few times through the door. "Charlotte, would you like to bake cookies with Grandma today? We can make your favorite chocolate chip cookies." But the only response was a faint no. By afternoon, I grew increasingly worried about Charlotte. Determined, I knocked on her door. "Charlotte, may I come in?" After a moment, a small voice said, "Okay." Opening the door, I saw Charlotte sitting on the bed, holding something. In her hand was a small medicine bottle. Startled, I rushed to her side. "Charlotte, what do you have there?" I asked, unable to hide my shock as I took the bottle from her hand. The label on the bottle had an unfamiliar name. It contained a large dose of medication she shouldn't be taking. Confused and my heart pounding, I questioned her. "Charlotte, why do you have this? Who gave it to you?" I looked at her intently. Lowering her eyes, tears welling up, she whispered, "Daddy told me to take these. But I don't want to. Mommy didn't say anything." Holding her shoulders, I desperately comforted her. "You absolutely shouldn't do that. You don't have to take them." I couldn't understand why Nathan would do such a thing. After calming Charlotte, I securely stored the medicine bottle to examine later. To ensure her safety, I carefully searched her room. While checking under the bed and in drawers, I noticed an album with old family photos. "Charlotte, is this your album? Did you bring it?" I asked, showing her the photos. Looking a bit confused, she replied, "Yes, Daddy gave it to me. It's full of family pictures." I opened the album, carefully examining each photo. There were images of a smiling Nathan, Stella, and a young Charlotte. Tucked behind one photo, I found a handwritten note. "What's this?" I cautiously removed it. The words, penned in old ink, filled me with an ominous feeling. As I unfolded the note, I was left speechless. "Charlotte, wait here for a moment. Give Grandma some time. I'll be right back." With those words and the note clutched in my trembling hand, I left Charlotte's room. I couldn't ignore this discovery. In the living room, I spread out the note from the album. It was more a handwritten letter than a note. "My dearest Stella, the time has come to reveal what I've been hiding about Charlotte. I've been using her as a test subject for a new drug being developed at my company. This is part of a new treatment for her developmental disorder, and I believe it's necessary for her future well-being. However, we can't make this public. If anyone finds out, not only our family but also the company would suffer a major blow. I trust you understand. Please continue giving Charlotte the necessary medication. It's for her sake as well as ours. Nathan." The letter detailed Nathan's use of Charlotte as a test subject for his company's new drug development. I clutched the letter in disbelief. How could they use Charlotte as a guinea pig? It was unthinkable. Anger and sadness gripped my heart at my son's cruel plan. How could this happen?" I whispered, feeling tears spill down my cheeks. Charlotte's innocent face flashed through my mind as I began to consider what I could do to protect her. At that moment, I noticed Charlotte standing by the door, watching me with a worried expression. "Grandma, what's wrong?" Her voice was small and frightened. Wiping my tears, I smiled at her. "Everything's okay, Charlotte. Don't worry." Embracing Charlotte, I made a resolve in my heart. I was prepared to protect her. I decided to take action to ensure Charlotte's safety and expose Nathan's deeds. "Charlotte, let's do something fun together today," I said softly, holding her close. I was determined to do everything in my power to bring back her smile and keep her safe. Keeping a close eye on Charlotte, I formulated a plan. To verify the contents of this letter, I needed to talk to Nathan and Stella. While Charlotte was napping, I called Nathan. "Nathan, I need to talk to you right away. It's important. Can you come pick up Charlotte earlier?" I tried to sound calm, but my voice trembled. "Mom, what's this about?" Nathan's voice was emotionless. "Come home now. Bring Stella too." I said nothing more and hung up. A while later, Nathan and Stella arrived, tension evident on their faces. I invited them into the living room and closed the door. "Mom, what's going on?" Nathan asked, irritated. Taking a deep breath, I handed him the letter I'd found in Charlotte's room. "Read this, please." Nathan took the letter and began reading. I watched the color drain from his face. Stella peered at the letter too, her expression turning pained. "Nathan, is this true? You've been using Charlotte as a test subject?" My voice shook with anger and sorrow. Gripping the letter, Nathan stared at me coldly. "Mom, this is a misunderstanding. I'm just trying a new treatment for Charlotte's sake." "A new treatment?" I glared at him. "Doing this to a 3-year-old is unacceptable. Can't you see how much Charlotte is suffering?" Tears welled up in Stella's eyes. I objected to it. "But Nathan..." "Shut up, Stella." Nathan snapped. "This is for the family. For the company too. For the family." I was stunned. "You think burdening Charlotte is for the family?" Trying to regain composure, Nathan said, "Mom, this is necessary. Charlotte needs treatment now so she won't suffer in the future." "That's your excuse," I said coldly. "It's clear you're doing this for your own benefit, not Charlotte's." Crying, Stella pleaded, "I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do." "Stella, you're responsible too. It's our duty to protect Charlotte," I said, feeling sympathy for Stella but unable to forgive her. Unable to hide his irritation, Nathan said, "Mom, we're taking Charlotte home. Stop interfering." "I can't let you do that," I answered resolutely. "I won't allow Charlotte to be exposed to such danger. I'm prepared to do anything to protect her." Nathan clenched his fists, trembling with anger, but said nothing. Stella cried softly, leaning against him. "I'm reporting this to the police and the FDA," I declared calmly. "I'll expose everything you've done to Charlotte." His face turning red, Nathan threatened, "Do you know what will happen if you do that?" "I do," I replied, unwavering. "But I'll do whatever it takes to protect Charlotte." Nathan fell silent at those words. Stella continued to cry. I met their gazes, my face etched with determination. "Charlotte will live safely with me," I told them before contacting the police and the FDA. The police officer said they would dispatch an investigation team immediately. The FDA representative I called next responded calmly, saying, "We need to verify the details of the letter and medication. We'll send a team right away. Rest assured, we will address this." While I was communicating with the police and FDA, Nathan and Stella apparently left, leaving Charlotte behind. Hours later, investigators from the police and FDA arrived. They listened intently to my story and began searching Charlotte's room. I held Charlotte tightly, trying to reassure her. "Grandma, are you scared?" Charlotte asked, looking worried. "No, Charlotte. Grandma will protect you, so don't worry," I replied gently, stroking her hair. The investigators examined the letter and medicine bottle, stating, "We have enough evidence now. We're launching an investigation into Nathan Ford. Charlotte needs to be protected in a safe place for a while." "Of course. Charlotte will stay with me. Her safety is my top priority," I answered firmly. That night, after putting Charlotte to bed, I sat on my own bed and wept. I vowed to do everything in my power to ensure Charlotte had a safe and happy future. I was prepared to stand my ground for her sake. I wanted to bring back her innocent smile and put an end to Nathan's cruel actions. Days passed as the joint investigation by the police and FDA progressed. I spent each day by Charlotte's side. To keep her safe, we stayed at home, avoiding contact with Nathan and Stella. When Charlotte began to show her carefree smile again, my heart felt a small measure of relief. However, the worry about my son's actions never faded. One morning, the doorbell rang. Opening the door, I found a police officer and an FDA investigator standing there. "Kelly Ford, we need to talk," the officer said quietly. I invited them into the living room and sent Charlotte to the next room to reassure her. With a grave expression, the officer said, "An arrest warrant has been issued for Nathan Ford. We have sufficient evidence of his illegal medical experiments." Hearing those words, a mix of emotions welled up in my chest. Sadness at my son's arrest intermingled with relief that Charlotte would be saved. "Where is he now?" I asked, maintaining my composure. "He's currently at work. We're heading to his office to arrest him now," the officer replied. "I understand." I took a deep breath and confirmed, "Will Charlotte's safety be ensured?" "Yes, her safety is guaranteed." "We appreciate your cooperation," the FDA investigator said, gazing at me warmly. A few hours later, the phone rang. It was the police officer from earlier. "We've arrested Nathan Ford. He's currently in custody." At those words, tears spilled forth. The time had come for Nathan to face the consequences of his actions. With mixed feelings, I accepted this outcome. That night, after putting Charlotte to bed, I spent a quiet moment alone in the living room. A few days later, Charlotte and I visited the park. She was smiling again, playing with carefree innocence. Seeing her like this filled my heart with relief and joy. "Grandma, look. I can swing so high," Charlotte shouted gleefully. "That's amazing, Charlotte. You're doing great," I responded with a smile. Although we had gone through the painful event of my son's arrest, spending my days with Charlotte was my salvation. I intended to continue protecting her so that her future would be bright. As Nathan faced legal consequences, Charlotte could begin a new life. I vowed to watch over her growth and do my best to ensure she grew up in a happy and safe environment. A new chapter began with Charlotte, and I felt genuine joy and gratitude. Her smile had become the light of my life. Years later, Charlotte turned 8, growing into a lively and cheerful girl. Despite facing her developmental disorder, she enjoyed school, made friends, and participated in various activities. Our home was filled with laughter and warm affection. One day, Charlotte and I were planting flowers in the garden. She was excitedly helping to plant new seedlings. "Grandma, these flowers are special because we planted them together," Charlotte said with a smile. "That's right, Charlotte. Let's continue to grow many flowers together," I smiled back at her. Charlotte continued to thrive, excelling in school and making many friends. Watching her grow had become the greatest joy of my life. One day, Charlotte came home from school, excited to talk to me. "Grandma, we had a speech contest at school today, and I won first place." "Really? That's wonderful, Charlotte." I hugged her, gazing at her face with pride. "It's thanks to you, Grandma. I found the courage because you're always cheering me on," Charlotte said, her words warming my heart. "Charlotte, you're such a strong and amazing girl. Grandma will always be on your side, so keep challenging yourself," I said, holding her hand, filled with a warm feeling. As Charlotte grew, I remembered how many difficulties she had overcome. The wounds from Nathan's actions had healed, and she was starting to walk toward a new future. Our life was peaceful, and Charlotte could grow up feeling secure. When Charlotte turned 10, we took a trip together. Her smile was as bright as the sun, warming my heart. "Grandma, let's always be together," Charlotte said, squeezing my hand. "Of course, Charlotte. No matter how much you grow, Grandma will always be by your side," I smiled at her, feeling hope for the future. And so, Charlotte and I continued to spend happy days together. As she grew, our bond deepened, and I sincerely wished for her future to shine brightly. As long as Charlotte's smile and innocent voice remained the light of my life, I could find the courage to face any hardship. That was my unwavering promise to my beloved granddaughter, Charlotte.